Greetings, dear viewers. Today we have a special guest who accepted our invitation for the interview. Our guest today is Andrea Rossi. Andrea is an Italian entrepreneur who has invented a cold fusion device. Andrea, welcome. Please kindly introduce yourself to our viewers.
As you correctly said, I am an entrepreneur that has made this thing that is called a cat. And to explain the physical principles upon which it is based is a bit difficult, but anyway, this is a system to exploit the zero-point energy that is an indirect derivation of the concept of cold fusion. We are working with it since many years, and now we are going to show a race between an electric vehicle powered by our device that is named the e-cat, where is stays for energy and cat stays for catalyzer, and the race will be between an electric vehicle powered by the cat and another one without the cat, of the same model, same manufacturer, same age, etc. And the cat will work recharging perpetuously the battery of the electric vehicle that will be powered by the same cat, so that basically after 10 hours, that will be the duration of the test, the cat will still have the battery perfectly full, while the competitor, after 2-3 hours maximum, at the same speed, of course, and making the same distance behind the cat powered one, will stop after 2-3 hours because the battery will be exhausted. This should be a direct evidence of the potentiality of this technology.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And I know you said it's a very complicated technology and it's hard to explain, but for those of us who don't understand much in technology and how this energy device works, what would be a simplified version for the viewers to at least have a little bit of understanding about this definitely groundbreaking technology?
It is based on the fact that it starts from the concept of entropy. Entropy, based on the third principle of thermodynamics, is always accelerating, which means that disorder, if no forces are applied, disorder is inevitably increasing. For example, if you pour from an ink liter bottle, if you pour the ink in the pavement, you will see some dirt, some ink that will dirt the pavement. It is impossible that making just this, you can read in the pavement some poetry or something like that forms spontaneously. This is because the third principle says that if you do not apply forces, you pass from an ordered system to a more disordered one, exploiting the capacity of electrons to form clusters in order. You basically make the entropy have a reverse increase. This reverse increase is a generation of energy, which is called zero-point energy. It has been also an object of intuition from Tesla. I have worked on that. And we exploit exactly that energy. And with that energy, we obtain from those electrons electric energy. That is used, in the case of the test, will be to generate, to move, to charge the batteries of an electric vehicle. So that basically it will have some kind of an infinite, which will not be infinite at a certain point, it will stop, but very, very long autonomy. I have been as simple as possible, because after that we have to enter mathematics, and your listeners would change a channel.
And may we ask what kind of energy does energy catalyzer use, and how does it receive it from, and from what source?
The source are clusters of electrons that come in phase, subject to differences of voltage in time pulsations, and they cause a reverse difference of entropy that generates electricity.
We also heard, as you mentioned, Nikola Tesla, and we would like to know, did you use any of actual developments and discoveries that were made by Nikola Tesla himself while developing ECAT?
In particular, I worked on the fact that he was going to spoil had not he been killed before succeeding to do it. And this is exactly that energy that is around us he was speaking about.
And if we're talking about Nikola Tesla, have you managed to confirm his findings and maybe even realize them in your own practice?
Yes.
And so you mentioned this energy that all around us, and we know you're talking about ether. This is something that has been a lot of communication about.
The 0-point energy has nothing to do with ether. It has to do with entropy. And entropy has nothing to do with ether. Entropy is the phenomenon that stays, the rule of nature. It is the third principle of thermodynamics that basically says that in absence of forces application, the disorder between things, whatever their dimensions, organization, etc., the disorder is increasing. If you want, this can be the proof of the existence of God, if you want, because creation, well, this may be an interesting example. If you start to the point of view that spontaneously you can have a translation of chaos into something similar to a highly sophisticated organic system like animals, not to mention mankind, etc., just because accidentally from combination of atoms and molecules it can happen, you contradict the third principle of thermodynamics, because entropy forbids that this happens. Evolution is a completely different thing. The selection of space ice, which is obvious, is a completely different thing. That is just a selection between beings that already exist. But to pass to complete disorder, to order without a force that makes it, is impossible. So what does do the ECAT? The ECAT exploits the fact that with a force that is constituted by differences of voltage, pulsations that we can determine by using the proper force in due time, we should call it DVDT, we can obtain clusters of coherent bosonic electrons that make a reverse of entropy, and the reverse of entropy intrinsically causes a generation of energy made by running electrons, and we get those electrons to make electricity.
And then going back, could you share with us which challenges did you face before you actually get ECAT model working well? And how long did it take you to actually get the final output that is performing as you were expecting?
I am working on it since 1996. And, the challenges are the fact that my team worked an average of 12 hours per day for almost 30 years, spending a lot of money and of physical force. And in that case, we have not been able to reverse the entropy.
And could you tell us a little bit more how exactly you were testing it? We know that in University of Bologna there was presentation, but how was exactly the testing going on? And basically what results were obtained after the famous test that we know you did in 2011? And what is the maximum, term during which this ECAT device could actually work and generate energy?
What we have shown worked as we did show it, with all its shortcomings. And the shortcomings were connected mainly in safety issues. So that during all these years, we passed through phases that allowed us to pass from a system that needed our constant control of a mechanism that was too dangerous to put it freely to work worldwide without our direct control. Now we reached a level that can be considered completely definitely safe. Now what we have to overcome is the economy scale, because to produce now the cat in quantities, it is necessary to produce the cat in quantities of several hundreds, thousands of pieces to be able to make a price that that makes them very convenient. This is the last step.
And because you mentioned about the production and the numbers, that is, the best would be to produce. If we move more to the practical side, let's imagine a city of 1 million people. And in this technology, able to ensure that this city is able to have enough energy and the power to convert all the needs of residents, such needs for electricity in the infrastructure and so on, production facilities, enterprises, and so on. How can this be realized? And how, would it be possible to actually sustain this 1 million of people, this commune with ECAT?
It is just a matter of numbers, because the engine of the electric vehicle that we will power with the ECAT is an engine of a certain power. We will give all this data during the test. If you put them in series and parallel, you can reach any power, any voltage, and any amperage you want, increasing the power, putting the modules in parallel, and the voltage, putting them in series. So it is just a matter of quantities. When you talk of 1 million warfare, you cited the very engaging case of a 1 million people town. Okay, let us make some simple account. Normally, in a 1 million people means about, let me say, 200,000 families. Normally, every family consumes an average, needs an average of 4 kilowatt of power per day, which means about 200 watts per watt hour per hour. So we must multiply 200 watt hour time 250,000 to have the watt hours of energy that we need. Once we have them, we divide by 1,000, and we have the power, the kilowatt of power that we need to feed a town. It seems a big number, but substantially, it is not.
And also, if it's mass-produced in such large quantities, which we'll hope for because we need such energy devices, then, of course, something that has to be tested is the impact on human health, especially in such large quantities. Has this part been studied? How does ECAT actually affect in human health? And what is the impact on the environment? And how safe is the technology?
Yes. Good questions. The ECAT is absolutely emissions-free. It does not emit radiations of any kind. It does not emit CO2, does not emit smoke, noise, whatever. And so it's emission-free. So under the health point of view, it poses no problem at all. And yes, this is a plus. We have shown this in many demonstrations. Also, presently there is on YouTube www.ecat.com. If you go there are links. I think important to go to see on YouTube and to Twitch are in parallel, because sometimes one is stopped by Microsoft to make updates, etc. So we have made two, so that at least one of two is always on. And it is a lamp that is going with a very small cut, without any wiring, etc., etc. And we also published there the measurement of any kind of electromagnetic emissions. By the way, the cut has been certified by RINA, R-I-N-A, which is one of the most important world safety certification companies, that it does not emit any electromagnetic waves. And no noise and no emissions, because we burn nothing.
It's amazing what you developed, and it sounds really fascinating if we can actually use it.
Thank you.
We also would like to talk about actually threats of having unlimited cheap energy. For example, when atomic energy was discovered, it was immediately used to create the atomic bomb. And there is a great risk, actually, with the non-fuel generators might also be used in harm for humanity. In your opinion, what do you think we can do to avoid this, to misuse the device in the wrong way?
You mean limited to the ECAT or in general?
I think in general, and maybe in ECAT specifically.
Okay, in the ECAT specifically is easy to answer. The energy, energy is like a hammer. If you use a hammer to bang your head, it is very dangerous. If you use it to make things in a carpentry, it is just a working tool. The energy concentration that we have in the cat is not such that it can be devastating as the atomic energy, the nuclear, the nuclear energy. Because to make an explosive, you need something that shoots out energy in fractions of seconds, while the cat emits energy slowly. Nonetheless, if I make for you a generator of 1 megawatt and you use 1 megawatt to fulminate people, that is dangerous. So it is, I think, I am not an expert of armaments, but I think that to use my technology to make armaments is not convenient, because is to spend 1 billion of euros spending 1 cent per time. It is, yes, you can, but there are other systems much more efficient. This for what concerns the cat. Anyway, the kind of tools that we make with this technology is absolutely not fit to make arms or armaments. In general, unfortunately, the nature of man never changed in thousands of years. Men, unfortunately, are not normally good guys, and their greed for power, even more than for money, is in their DNA, so they will always use anything useful for that to make wars. If you go to read what happened in the wars of 500 years before Christ, if you read the reports made of the author of the times, you will see that the way their brain works is absolutely the same of the brains as they work today. Nothing changed. Yes, and now today we have computers, cars, blah, blah, blah. But how the brain works did not change and will never change. I am very pessimistic about the fact how we can reduce the utilization of every kind of energy to kill men. I think this is not just the most profitable market existing in the world, even more than illegal drugs, but this is the most desired issue from the people in power. I am afraid to say without any exception, unfortunately.
What obstacles you see on the way to mass production of ECAT?
Enormous, because this will be a revolution, and it is in contrast with many businesses. Because, if an electric car runs for 10 hours with a battery of series that has a life of 2 hours, and he goes ahead for 10 hours, and at the end of the 10 hours, the battery is still full, cases are two. Either there is some ET, or there is a technology that is useful. So I hope it will be useful. I hope it will be useful. And surely we will have obstacles. We have, as you surely know, hordes of trolls that continues to diffuse things that now they lost the credibility because they continue to repeat the same things, but reality is showing that it is not so.
Yes, we live in a consumer format of society where the goal of society is to earn as much money as possible rather than make society beneficial for people, and to use those devices for the benefit of all humans and for overall of people. In your opinion, how can we make the non-fuel generators actually available to everyone, so that everyone can, like I said, regular consumers who are providing for the households, how can we make sure that we as human beings actually using your device for the benefit of ourselves, in your opinion?
In my opinion, to arrive at, because, if we put the device freely away and say, okay, this is free for everybody, keep it and go, there will generate a disaster. Because fake incidents will be made and the whole will be buried. So to make this technology prosperate, it is absolutely necessary that subjects, entities that have the power to defend the technology, at least for the first years, if we are not able to start with this kind of organization, this technology will be buried. Now, it is naive to say, put it in an open source and everybody will blah, blah, blah. Yes. And the first accident that happens either because on purpose, which is very likely, it will be generated, or because some inexpert person accidentally will generate it, this system will be buried. It happened already for many other things.
Yes, indeed. We've seen those cases when even electric cars, how many obstacles had to be passed even to introduce electric cars. And we know from the news exactly what you told us about what's happening. They were showing electric cars on fire all over the news saying it's dangerous, don't use electric cars. And now we see that years passed and many fuel automobile companies actually start implementing technology of electric cars. So we're hoping that the same will happen to fuel-free generators, and our society will accept it not as a threat to business, but just an opportunity to evolve, to make a more sustainable, more responsible humanity.
When you plug the spine of an electric car to your outlet, it's important that that electricity does not come from fossil fuels. Otherwise, you have just translated the problem from one place to another. In this case, you just may make it worse, because in all these passages, there is an enormous loss of efficiency. And because, to make 1 electric megawatt, you need to burn 3 thermal megawatts. And so when the electricity arrives to your car, has just made a terrific amount of CO2, even if displaced from the gas exhaust of a car to the chimney of a power generation, a thermoelectric plant. Well, that could be an answer, but also, of course, wind, solar, absolutely. Even if wind and solar have the problem of the big difference that there is between power and energy. You can have a power of 1 megawatt, but at the end of the day, after 24 hours, the energy that you get are more or less 100 kilowatt.
You're right, mentioning that the efficiency, right, of our power sources. If if in order to create this energy, we need to burn fuel or with all other. Yeah, if it's not efficient, so there's no return out of what we actually invested into creating this energy. Indeed, it makes nonsense to use those kind of yes.
This is only a matter of mathematics. I don't know if you have made mathematical school. I don't know but ask to anybody that knows mathematics to make a balance of energy, and calculate how much fuel has been burned in a power plant, in a thermoelectric power plant, for every kilowatt hour that is drawn from an electric vehicle from the outlet of the electricity. Just make a balance. That's all. And for what concerns, there are sources, hydroelectric, for example, there is no problem at all. Really, there is just water that falls down. Okay. Also solar, but only in some places, because a plant, a solar panel or a windmill that has a power of 1 megawatt produces 1 megawatt hour of energy only when there is enough sun or wind to put its blades to turn at the maximum possible speed, which is for the windmill or the photovoltaic cell to work at their maximum power. That is about a couple of hours per day. But the day is 24 hours. 24 hours divided by 2 is 12. This means that the energy that you can get from a solar system is about the 10% of the power that it has normally. That's it. At that point, it is opportune also to calculate the so-called gray energy, which is the energy necessary to produce the photovoltaic cell and to produce the windmills and to make the maintenance, blah, blah, blah. So in some places, it is worth to make them. In other places, just a business. A business that implies corruption, mostly political corruption, etc., etc., etc. And we return to the brains of the man we were talking about some minutes ago.
Yes, indeed. And also, if we consider all these climate changes that are happening, storms, hurricanes, hails that are with the size of the tennis ball, those technologies very fragile. And our humanity cannot rely on those power sources as windmills and the solar panels, because they can be easily damaged. And in order to produce them and put back on the field, it requires a lot of investment, a lot of time, which actually humans don't have because they're consuming on a regular basis constantly. So it really, you can see the real return on investment comes to enormous amount. So it's,
I agree with you.
There was one conference on which we prepared a big investigation on solar panels and wind turbines, and we calculated how much lubricants that made from oil needed to spin the turbine during its lifetime. And it's a huge locomotive with 30 canisters attached to the train during the lifespan of wind turbine, and nobody even talks about it. So it's not sustainable. The waste comes from solar panels is poisoning our grounds, and nobody talks about it. And the toxins, there is not even technology that would safely dispose solar panels. But now we're seeing that the real solution is fuel-free generators. And for us, it's a great honor to cover it from media perspective, to film everything, because we really think that it's time for humanity to become free, much freer in the sense of energy, and not dependent on those who have been suppressing these technologies to simply for money and power purposes. Like you said, this could be a great opportunity for humanity to become a much better society, which we all would love to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This has been a very interesting discussion, and I thank you very much for the opportunity that you gave me today. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Xenia.